Hello, Texas, and welcome to a candid conversation about what powers modern life. If you're looking for facts about our energy landscape and how oil and natural gas provides energy security for our state, nation, and allies around the globe, you've come to the right place. This is TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight. Welcome back to another episode of TXOGA Talks, a podcast brought to you by the Texas Oil and Gas Association, or what we call TXOGA for short. This is a show where we have a candid conversation about our energy needs, our energy future, and I'm Todd Staples, serving as your host, and I serve as president of TXOGA. Now, just a little bit about TXOGA. TXOGA is a statewide trade association. It represents every facet of the Texas oil and gas industry, including small independents as well as major producers. Our members produce about 90% of our state's oil and gas. They are responsible for a vast majority of our state's pipelines and refineries, LNG facilities, and include our leading service companies that enables Texas to produce about 43% of the oil that's produced in America, almost 30% of the natural gas that's produced in this country. And so when we say everything's bigger in Texas, we're not just bragging. These are facts, folks. Our mission at TXOGA is to promote a robust oil and natural gas industry and to advocate for sound science-based policies and free market principles. Now, today we're going to pivot a little bit from our normal program focused solely on energy because there's big topics in Texas that are going to impact every Texan's life, and it does impact the energy industry right along with every single Texan. We're delighted to have with us special guest, State Representative Matt Shaheen. Matt serves as chairman of the House Elections Committee. He also serves as on the House Higher Ed Committee, and he lives in Collin County. Chairman Shaheen, welcome to TXOGA Talks.
Well, thanks for having me, Todd.
Well, it's great to be with you. Just for those that don't know, you represent House District 66, I believe, Collin County. Tell us a little bit about your district that you so ably represent.
Well, I like to refer to it as God's country, and it's just north of Dallas. It's up in Collin County. I represent the towns of Plano, Frisco, Prosper, and Salina. And it's an incredible area. We have a significant number of people that are moving to this area really every day. There's over 1,000 that move to Texas every day. Sometimes it feels like they're all moving into House District 66. But we've got large corporations like Toyota that's headquartered here, but we have small mom and pop businesses as well. And the story here is incredible amount of growth and opportunity, just like the rest of Texas.
Well, there's a reason we have 31 million Texans today, and it's because of districts like yours. And we appreciate your service in the legislature. I actually, Representative, when you and I first met, you were Commissioner Shaheen, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How long did you serve on the Collin County Commissioners Court?
Yeah, I was on the Collin County Commissioners Court for 5 years, and then the opportunity opened up for the legislature. And being a county commissioner for Collin County, again, fast-growing county, one of the fastest-growing in the nation. We're at a little bit over 1 million now. We'll exceed 3 million when we're done growing, which is going to be decades from now. And I think you were a commissioner too when we first met, if I'm not mistaken. So we both have really good backgrounds.
That's right, we do. I love serving as Commissioner of Agriculture. Agriculture is such a huge part of our state's history and a big part of our state's economy as well. So going from agriculture to natural gas and oil as two resource commodity-based industries that are a big part of Texas. Well, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason that we have the chairman of the House Elections Committee as our guest today. There really is a big election coming up soon. And legislators like Chairman Shaheen are the ones that voted to put constitutional amendments on the ballot in the first place. But there's a reason they did that, and I think most Texans will agree with this, Chairman. You know, when Texas became a state in 1845, I think it's fair to say that our founding fathers were a little bit distrustful of government. Do you think that's a fair way to categorize that?
I would take the word little out of that sentence. They were very distrustful. The Texas legislature only meets every 2 years, and they wanted us to pass minimal amounts of legislation and then go back home and live underneath the legislation that we passed and be accountable to our constituents.
Well, I think they set something up pretty special when our founding fathers did this, because Texas is now the eighth largest economy in the world. And so it's working pretty well. And the way that they designed our state government, ladies and gentlemen, is that it requires 2/3 of both chambers of the legislature. They must agree before an issue can be placed on the ballot to amend our state's constitution. Some people say it's too cumbersome, but it's working pretty well, and it makes certain that the people are the ones in power and not government. So I think that's pretty good. Some facts that I thought were interesting: since 1845, the Texas legislature has proposed a total of 714 amendments. Now, of those, Mr. Chairman, how many have been adopted?
Over five, a little bit over 500.
That's right. About 530 have been adopted. That means you got about 180 plus that have been defeated by Texas voters. So, folks, we're doing this program today to make certain that you recognize the importance of going to the ballot and voting, and making certain you're telling your friends and your family, because there might be some things that you see as a voter that you've got concerns about. The legislature put these up for you to make that decision, and we're excited that you're going to be there. Now, if you think about how important this is, Mr. Chairman, there have been issues that are of pretty big significance in our state's history that voters have voted on. What are some of those top ballot initiatives that people have looked at in past elections as an indicator of just how important that this election might be?
Yeah, it might surprise some of your listeners to know that the Texas Constitution actually forbids gambling in the state of Texas. There's some good reasons for that, but one of the items that the citizens voted on was the actual state lottery. It was back in the early 1990s, and that went before the voters. And you've probably read about some of the controversy lately about the lottery, and we actually spent this past legislative session making some adjustments to that. But I mean, the lottery is one of the big issues. We've also done some things as far as making sure that Texas remains Texas. There was a constitutional amendment banning an income tax, so it forbid the legislature for ever having a personal income tax. That was something in the early 1990s as well. And one thing that I think is a little entertaining, being a Baptist that doesn't drink, is we actually had the constitutional amendment on statewide prohibition as well. That was quite a while ago, and but
That was over 100 years ago, right?
yeah, but you said it right, commissioners. It's like, Texas is special for a lot of different reasons, but our citizens get to vote on some pretty weighty topics, and these are literal changes to the Constitution. And one thing that's really important, normally a bill passes the House and Senate, goes to the governor signs it, becomes law. Well, this, both houses pass it by 2/3 majority, but then it goes straight to the citizens, right? And so the citizens play an incredibly important role in our state government.
Folks, you really do. You're in the driver's seat in the state of Texas, and that's the way that our legislature likes that and appreciates the public's involvement. And if the public doesn't get involved, bad things happen. And we can look all around the globe of bad examples of government. We can look in our own country, right, of really bad examples of the way to do things. While Representative Shaheen and his colleagues gathered this last legislative cycle, they had billions of dollars of surplus. You look at California, they had billions of dollars of deficit. It's because they managed our state's business right. Our state's constitution requires a balanced budget every year. So these are all good things that are healthy.
We're a little different than Washington D.C., right? We can actually pass a budget. We don't shut down the government, and which shutting DC down may not be a bad thing, but no, you laid it out exactly right.
I kind of think the same thing. Texas is going to be Texas. We're going to keep marching forward, doing our thing, and whatever happens in DC, they'll have to work that out for sure. So I want to talk about and focus on our upcoming election.
Yeah.
So let's give the listeners, if you will, some dates that they need to know about which is so important as we think about their opportunity to vote here.
Yeah, so election day for these constitutional amendments will be November 4th. And then what everybody needs to remember is the 2 weeks beforehand is early voting. So early voting will actually start the 20th of October, go through the 31st, and then election day will be the 4th. You have that Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. And so yeah, Commissioner, I'm really glad that you're doing this. We really need to encourage our constituents, our to all Texans across the state of Texas that are adults, obviously, that come out and vote and really represent their votes. It's really important that we do that.
Well, we know that we have constitutional amendments to vote on, so no matter where you vote in Texas, you'll have these constitutional amendments. But uh, besides these amendments, what else might people be voting on when they show up at the ballot?
Well, that's a good point. There could be some other items on the ballot. There could actually be, people running for political office. There might be local propositions as well. There's actually one special election for a Senate seat, a state Senate seat as well. So, what I would encourage your listeners to do is they can go to their local county website to see what items are on the ballot. You can go to VoteTexas.gov to see as well. You can look up your area and see what's going to be on the ballot. And, for constitutional amendments, it's really important to do that because you're not just voting on individuals, you're actually voting on actual proposals to change our Constitution. And there's some wording, and it's often helpful to look at how that ballot language is drafted so you have a full understanding of what you're voting on. It's a little different, obviously, than voting between two different individuals for public office. So having an advanced look at that is really helpful.
That's a good tip. It really is, because you don't want to be overwhelmed when you go in the ballot box. This is a duty of citizenship to
Mhm.
vote. It's a responsibility. It's a duty to be educated, and so that's what we're trying to do today: give you facts and let you make up your mind. But local elections, school board elections, these are all issues that you might face. So going to your county elections website is a great idea. You can also go to the Secretary of State's website, and we'll try to get you to give them that. But before you do, I often think about voter turnout. I mean, I think about how paltry it usually is on these type of elections because you don't have people spending tens of millions of dollars campaigning, and so you really don't have the turnout like you do in a presidential election. We've got 31 million Texans today. What's your take on how many registered voters we have and how many might turn out in this cycle, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, no, you're spot on, Commissioner. If you look back at the last time we amended the Constitution back in 2023, out of roughly 18 million registered voters, only 2.5 million came out to vote, right? But you're right, you're spot on as far as when you look at like a general election, a presidential election, you have multiple times, you'll have more than four times the number of people that will turn out and vote. But think of the weight of this November. We're literally going to change the Texas Constitution, yet the voter turnout is really low. And our constituents, again, we're blessed. Well, of course, we're blessed to live in the United States, but we're blessed to live in the state of Texas, where citizen participation is incredibly important.
Well, you commented that 2.5 million people cast a ballot out of 18 million. My quick Aggie math tells me that, that's between 10 and 15%, probably 12 or 13% of the voters. So folks, if you don't want other people making choices for you, you probably need to make plans to go vote this November 4th or anytime early voting between October 20th and 31st. So we talked about these amendments can be complex.
Mhm.
What is the best place for listeners to go? You mentioned the county elections office website. It's a good one. What else maybe for these state elections?
Yeah, so you can go. We've actually established a website. It's called VoteTexas.gov, and you can actually look up what the ballot's going to look like for your specific area. Because what you mentioned before, uh, people are going to go and they're going to be voting on constitutional amendments, but there could be some local elections. There could be some local propositions. So again, taking a look at the ballot in advance will be really helpful, right? Because you're not just trying to decide between two individuals, and maybe you studied up. You've probably seen a bunch of commercials or receive a bunch of mail, right? But it's also often helpful to go in and read the amendment to the Constitution in advance. Of course, if you want to wait till the end and you're sitting at the machine and you're reading things for the first time, it gets a little difficult. But so again, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to our voters, our constituents. But I would recommend looking at the language in advance.
Well, I think that's good advice, and I know I want us to spend a little bit of time today on taking on some of the big topics that are going to impact voters' lives. I'd like to do them all. I just don't think there's time. But before we jump into those, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear a quick message from today's sponsor, and we'll be right back. Take a listen.
Hi, I'm Neil Carlton, president of the TXOGA Insurance Agency. The TXOGA Insurance Agency is pleased to sponsor today's episode of the TXOGA Talks podcast. TXOGA members have access to the TXOGA Safety Group with Texas Mutual and get a premium discount of 12.4%, as well as the possibility to earn 2 dividends. Participants also have access to unique safety tools to keep their team safe and on the job. Visit TXOGAinsurance.gov for more information.
Welcome back to TXOGA Talks. We're visiting today with our very special guest, State Representative Matt Shaheen, chairman of the Texas House Committee on Elections. And the reason that Chairman Shaheen is spending time with us today is because every voter has a decision to make on amending or not amending our state's constitution. Representative Shaheen, remind us again how many different amendments that voters will have to take a look at when they vote on November 4th.
Yeah, there's going to be 17 amendments to the Constitution that will be on the ballot. Some of these are pretty weighty issues, just given the amount of growth that's going on in the state of Texas. There's some medical items that I think it'd be helpful to talk about. I mean, we probably can't talk about all of them, Commissioner, but I think it'd be nice to cover some of these to educate some of your listeners so that they are really well prepared when they're going on into the ballot box.
I think 17 amendments is a lot. Maybe we need more limited government from the legislature and only allow like 10 or 8 amendments at a time. That might be a new thing to think about. I don't know.
There you go.
Well, we'll do our best, folks. There are big issues, and I think I will. I'm going to pitch some of these issues out, Matt, and get you to take a look at them and kind of tell us a little bit about them, and
Yeah.
maybe give us the ballot language. The first
Yep.
one that comes to mind. There's 17 of them, folks, and they're listed. They're going to be on your ballot: Prop 1, Prop 2, Prop 3, Prop 4, all the way to 17. I want to start. And because I don't mention any, please don't get your feelings hurt if this is your favorite ballot initiative. But I want to pick a few to get a flavor, because we're talking about property tax relief, we're talking about individual rights, we're talking about parental rights. You guys covered a gamut of information, but Prop 3 is one. It's about bail reform,
Yeah.
and Senator Joan Huffman, State Representative John Smithy covered this one. It's Proposition 3, bail reform. What are voters going to see on their ballot, Representative, when they walk in the booth to vote?
Yeah, this is a big issue. It's been in the press more so lately, actually, than in previous times. But so the ballot language is going to read: a constitutional amendment requiring the denial of bail under certain circumstances to persons accused of certain offenses punishable as a felony. And so, there's been some high-profile cases, some tragic murders by individuals that, quite frankly, shouldn't have been in our neighborhoods, should have been serving time in prison. But we do have some issues with some locally elected judges or district attorneys that, quite frankly, aren't doing their job as far as making our constituents safe. So this is going to be an amendment. It would authorize judges to deny bail to individuals charged with certain felonies. And now these are obviously more serious felonies. We're talking about murder. We're talking about aggravated assault. We're talking about human trafficking, which is a huge issue in the state of Texas. It actually embeds some mandatory bail denials for certain charges. Again, we're talking about some of our more more important, really serious felonies that occur sometimes in the state of Texas. And look, I don't want to deny that denying somebody bail is a weighty issue, but there's a quote from Governor Abbott that I want to read that I think really puts this in perspective. The governor said, "This session, we confronted a crisis, a revolving door bail system that repeatedly released dangerous criminals back onto the streets. To the victims and their families today, your pain is answered. Not only are we signing laws that correct the wrongs, your efforts have led to a rewrite of the Constitution of the state of Texas to ensure criminals like those who harmed your families will never be out on the loose again." So this is one of those really heavy topics, Commissioner, that it requires our citizens to step in and make a determination if we're going to make this change to our Constitution or not. This is so vitally important. People want to be safe in their neighborhoods, and this is going to be a big impact as far as addressing some of the safety in our neighborhoods, on our city streets.
Well, Matt Shaheen, our guest today, state representative, has been a strong proponent of public safety ever since I've known you. Governor Abbott made this topic a priority for the legislature this session. And folks, bail is denied in certain instances already, but I think what the legislature and the Governor Abbott have identified is a loophole to where some people were getting back out that needed to be removed from the public until the trial could be occurred, just because the danger and risk level was so great and people had been unfairly abused so dramatically that this is going to be on the ballot. It's Proposition 3. It's going to be a big one. Our next one, let's just don't skip the next one. It's the Texas Water Fund, Proposition number 4. Folks, big involved in agriculture my whole life. Water planning has been a part of my beginnings. We talked about rain every day. Being on the local city council, planning for water needs is something that's been important. The legislature made this a priority. Senator Charles Perry, State Representative Cody Harris were the sponsor and author of this particular proposition. And so, Representative Shaheen, what are the voters going to see when they go in the ballot box on Proposition 4? What is this ballot language going to be?
Yeah, so this ballot language, it states the constitutional amendment to dedicate a portion of the revenue derived from state sales and use taxes to the Texas Water Fund, and to provide for the allocation of use of that revenue. So, we've mentioned multiple times there's large numbers of people who move in the state of Texas, and they all need to drink water and fill their pools, right? And so this is something, this, along with some other infrastructure items that are incredible priority. And look, we're blessed in the state of Texas. We have such a robust economy. You mentioned that we're the 8th largest in the world. And so we're not going to have to establish increased taxes or establish a new one. This is existing revenue that's coming into the state. So this will dedicate about $1 billion additional dollars into our water fund. So it's incredibly important for the continued expansion of our economy, growth in jobs, and opportunity.
That's a huge issue you just pointed out. Folks, this is not a tax increase. This does not authorize the levying of any taxes. As Chairman Shaheen points out, this takes existing revenues that the state is generating from our robust economy and then puts this money aside so that it can be used for water planning, developing new water resources. And I'm excited about that. And if you want to know more about this issue, we found a couple of good websites. One of them is TexansForProp4.com, all spelled out, TexansFor, F-O-R, Prop4, F-O-U-R.com. And then Texas 2036 has really been putting out some great information as well. So I would refer you to Texas2036.org. That's 2036.org, Texas2036.org. They've been doing some really good work. So you mentioned, or I don't know if we mentioned or not, that previous Constitutional Amendment elections, voters set aside some funding for cancer research. Did we?
That's right. We mentioned that.
I thought we did. And I remember being a member of the legislature, Mr. Chairman, when that was passed, and I thought at the time, well, are we going to be setting aside money that it's not going to be used properly, and and are there going to be problems with it? And I'll tell you that the research that has been done on cancer in the last few years is saving people's lives. And I know cancer is a scary word, folks. Our family has experienced it as well, but the progress that has been made in this space has literally saved people's lives. There's protocols, you know what to expect. They know how to treat you, and every family has been benefited tremendously by this. It was a wise decision. So now there's going to be Proposition 14 that sets aside some money for another issue. It's establishing and funding DPRIT. And I'm going to get Chairman Shaheen to read that ballot language so you'll know what that is. But again, we've got Chairman Joan Huffman, Senator Huffman, and Representative Tom Craddock, former Speaker of the Texas House, one of the deans of the Texas House, that put this ballot language before us. And so tell us what we're going to look at when we walk into the ballot booth on Proposition number 14.
Yeah, you got it, and you articulated it right. It's incredibly important. So the ballot language will say the constitutional amendment providing for the establishment of the Dementia Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, establishing the Dementia Prevention and Research Fund to provide money for research on and prevention and treatment of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and related disorders in this state, and transferring to that fund $3 billion from state general revenue. So again, Commissioner, we're blessed and live in the state of Texas. We've got a robust economy. It's incredible that we're able to do this. And you raised a really valid point about, is there going to be waste and those types of things? And a lot of these dollars are going to flow through Texas institutions, a lot of our research universities. I mean, university systems, part of the Texas university system, like especially down in Houston and like, those are now nationally recognized institutions. They are definitely making a difference in lives, not only in Texas, across the nation, if not the world. And dementia is something that touches a lot of us. I lost my dad to Alzheimer's disease. So the reality is, in the state of Texas, not only nationwide, but our population is getting older. We still have a pretty robust young population in the state of Texas, but we do have a growing percentage that are elderly. This is incredibly important. I will tell you on the House floor that former Speaker Tom Craddock really worked this piece of legislation really hard, did a great job, really well-respected member of the House, as I know you know, and this was a priority for him and priority for a lot of the members, and he did just a fabulous job shepherding this through the legislative process, and this is going to be a really important ballot initiative that I truly hope that our constituents, our voters support.
I do too. And look, when I was a member of the legislature, and I worked every day to trim the budget. I served on House Appropriations. I served on Senate Finance, and when we had downturns in the economy, man, I was cutting back because recessions are temporary, but tax hikes tend to be permanent. And so, well, we really worked hard to make certain we had a lean government. But I've learned a lot. I learned how impactful these dollars really can be. And Representative Craddock, Senator Huffman, both did a great job, as you pointed out. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick really started making this a priority long before this last session, and I appreciate Governor Patrick's really dedication to this issue and promoting it. If you want to know more, there's a website that we found that might give you some background and information. It's alz.org/yes on 14. alz.org/yes on 14. So take a look at that and see what you think. And we are getting older, and things happen to us as we get older, as we're all finding out. But it beats the alternative. So good things ahead.
But you mentioned something really important. I mean, you have a great record in the legislature, and we do have established limits as far as how much our budget can grow. We have population inflation that we can't exceed that growth. So, I do want your listeners to know that we are incredibly diligent. We are respectful of the fact that we're spending other people's money. This is their hard-earned money. We know there's a lot of moms out there, single moms, that are trying to buy formula and diapers, which is unbelievably expensive, and so we're very respectful for individuals' money and the fact that they do have to pay taxes in the state of Texas. So we're always going to be really diligent. This is just going to be an incredible investment by the state of Texas, really by the citizens of Texas, and it's going to make a huge difference.
I think, yeah, well said, well said. And you mentioned moms. I'll mention moms and dads on this next proposition. It's Proposition 15, Parental Bill of Rights. And so, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you're going to be a parent, you really want to pay attention to this one. It was brought to us and sponsored and authored by State Senator Brian Hughes, State Representative James Frank. And so, what are voters going to look at on the Parental Bill of Rights, Proposition 15?
Yeah, so that language is going to read the constitutional amendment affirming the parents are the primary decision makers for their children. And you called out Senator Hughes and Representative Frank, two really good friends. I know they're really good friends of yours, and they did some great work on this piece of legislation. It's concerning that we even have to reaffirm this in the Texas Constitution, but it's incredibly necessary. I mean, we have some individuals, whether maybe some of them are in our schools or in other capacities, that they think they are the smartest people in the room, or they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they think they know what's best for our children. Well, let's be clear: it's moms and dads that are going to make those decisions. They know what's best for their children. And 99% of our schools are awesome, great teachers that love on those students. But I've had this argument with some local instructors that think they know better than mom and dad, and they don't. And so we're reaffirming that in the Constitution, and it's just going to be something that I have the anticipation that this is going to really overwhelmingly pass. If I were to guess, I would say this is going to be an incredibly high percentage win for moms and dads. It's important that we reaffirm this in the Texas Constitution.
Well said. And the reason, folks, why the legislature is asking you to enshrine these principles in the Constitution, not only because many of them are required to do that, but on the instance of parental rights, is because if there are legal challenges to your rights as a parent, then you've got the Constitution of the state of Texas backing you up rather than just general law. And general law can be challenged on a lot of angles, and there can be other laws that are used to sometimes weaken your position. But by putting it in the Constitution, it elevates it a little bit higher. And that's why this next one is pretty important as well. It's Proposition 16. It's actually about voting security. It's about going to the ballot box, making certain that the right parameters are there on who gets to vote. State Senator Brian Birdwell, very decorated soldier, served our nation and serving in the state Senate today. State Representative Candy Noble, who I've known for a long time. She loves Texas. They brought this one to us. And what will this one say, Chairman Shaheen?
Yeah, this is a short one. The Constitution Amendment clarifying that a voter must be a United States citizen. The debate on the floor was pretty interesting. The people were trying to argue that this wasn't really needed and the like. And I have to be transparent. There's some individuals out there, whether they're legislators or some leaders in certain areas, that they actually don't have an issue with non-citizens voting in the state of Texas. And voting, I mean, Commissioner, we've been talking about it during our whole time together. What a precious right it is to be able to vote, to select your community leaders, your state leaders, your federal leaders, and to be able to participate in such a way where you're actually changing the Texas Constitution. So, of course, it's got to be that you're a United States citizen. So this is going to explicitly state in the Texas Constitution that only U.S. citizens may vote in Texas elections. It's incredibly important. We spent a significant amount of time this legislative session just making sure that our elections are secure, and we've done a significant amount of things to ensure that our elections are secure. And this is a really, really important avenue to it. And you're right, Senator Birdwell and Representative Noble. Representative Nobles, another Collin County state representative, really did yeoman's work in getting this legislation passed. Did a wonderful job, both of them.
Well, folks, we've given you a lot to think about this morning. We're visiting with State Representative Matt Shaheen, House District 66, resides in Collin County, been a member of the legislature for a few sessions now, chairman of the House Elections Committee. And we're talking to you because November 4th, you have an opportunity to take a look at 17 different amendments. We've not gone through all of them yet. I want to take a quick break, Representative Shaheen, so that we can hear from our sponsor again for today. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about taxes, something that's very important to every taxpayer. And so stick with us. We'll be right back. Thanks to a partnership between TXOGA and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, now more than ever, it's easy for small businesses to provide affordable group health coverage for their employees through the TXOGA healthcare plan. With a TXOGA plan, members can choose the right healthcare plan and benefits for them, priced within their budget, with the physicians and providers they trust. TXOGA's healthcare plan is available to small businesses with between 2 and 50 total employees who are headquartered in Texas, members of TXOGA, and aligned to the Texas oil and natural gas industry. If your organization is not enrolled but looking for coverage, visit bcbstx.com/TXOGA. I'll say that again. Visit bcbstx.com/TXOGA to learn more. Visit today. Welcome back to TXOGA Talks. We're visiting with State Representative Matt Shaheen, Chairman of the House Committee on Elections. And we're going through the propositional amendments that will be on the ballot this November 4th. We've talked about a ton of them, but there are many dealing with taxes. And there are several, but Representative, I wanted to call you Commissioner Shaheen again, because that's how I first knew you. But there's I want to focus on three just for time. And so, folks, if you're with us and you've got to get back to work, you really don't want to miss these. The first one I want to bring up is Proposition number 8. Proposition 8 prohibits death taxes. And so we've got State Representative Charlie Guerin, who I've won a goat milking contest with. I won't go into any more details than that. And we've got State Senator Charles Perry from Lubbock that brought this to us. What is this ballot language dealing with that prohibits death taxes?
Now, I think people do want to hear about that contest, but I'll read the ballot language. It's going to read that the Constitution Amendment to prohibit the legislature from imposing death taxes applicable to a descendant's property or the transfer of an estate, inheritance, legacy, succession, or gift. And yeah, it's almost absurd that you lose a loved one and then you have to turn around and then pay taxes on what you might inherit. It's silly, but that's existed at the federal level, and there's some other states that do have that. So again, we're enshrining our protection. That we have a great legislative body, both the House and the Senate today. You never know what's going to happen 20, 30, 40 years from now, what the makeup is going to be. And so we're establishing a significant hurdle. We're going to prohibit death taxes in the state of Texas.
That's good stuff. I like that. I think you've earned it. You pay taxes on it your whole life. There's no need for government to get involved in what your work that you've done to pass on to your family. But if you want it protected, folks, you've got to vote during early voting or on November 4th. Two more. Proposition 11 deals with homestead exemption increase for elderly and disabled. We've got State Senator Paul Bettencourt in Houston knows a tremendous amount about property taxes, works on them constantly. We've got State Representative Morgan Meyer in the North Texas market again, Chairman of House Ways and Means. Tell us what the voters are going to look at on this proposition number 11.
Yeah, number 11 is going to read the constitutional amendment authorizing the legislature to increase the amount of the exemption from ad valorem taxation by a school district of the market value of the residence homestead of a person who is elderly or disabled. So, it's important to remember that the legislature really only gets involved in the funding of our schools. That's why this is saying the ad valorem taxation by a school district. So we're going to provide some relief here where elderly disabled homeowners, their exemption is going to go from $10,000 to $60,000. So that's going to be that first $60,000 won't be taxed for their ISD taxes. It's probably important to though remind your listeners that your city, your county, and your ISD, they're actually the ones that set those property taxes. The state can only get involved in the ISD taxes because we're part of that funding formula. So don't forget to hold your locally elected officials accountable for those taxes, but we can impact the ISD rate. The legislature can impact the ISD rates, and we do, and the homestead.
That's a great point. The state of Texas has no property tax, folks. I know as much as the state's involved in school funding, it kind of makes you think that, but it does not. And those are all set by locally elected school officials. Your county and city officials deal with your local tax rates, but the legislature is stepping in saying they think it's a good idea to use some of the surplus state money to lower what you would be paying on your school taxes. Proposition number 11 deals with the exemption for elderly and disabled, but we have another one that's Proposition 13 that deals with just your homestead exemption increase. And so it's an exemption increase, and it's brought to us by the same set of legislators, Senator Betancourt, Representative Meyer, who work on these issues extensively. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So for Proposition 13, the ballot language is going to read the constitutional amendment to increase the amount of the exemption of resident homestead from ad valorem taxation by a school district from $100,000 to $140,000. So this is a nice piece of relief, increasing homestead to $140,000. A lot of Texans are going to feel, and keep in mind there's a lot of homes across the state of Texas where not being held for any taxation. That's a big chunk of the value of a lot of homes out there. So this great piece of property tax relief for a lot of Texans across the state.
Well, these are big issues, ladies and gentlemen, and there are many others on the ballot that you're going to be asked to look at. There's going to be topics about border security infrastructure, Texas State Technical College. There's going to be topics about judicial conduct reforms, all that are important, but it's going to be up to you to take a look at them. We hope that you will find this podcast today helpful. We're delighted to have State Representative Matt Shaheen, Chairman of the House Elections Committee. Chairman Shaheen, thank you for doing this today. I think this has been very informative, and your personal work on these issues as Chairman of the House Elections Committee, as a member of the Texas House of Representatives, gave us really good insights that we couldn't have had otherwise.
Well, I love being a part of your podcast. Thanks for inviting me, Commissioner. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Well, you are always welcome. As a reminder, November 4th is Election Day. Early voting is October 20th through October 31st. And if you want to learn more about the Texas constitutional amendments, you can go to VoteTexas.gov. Make certain that your voice is heard. Make certain that no one else is deciding your future but you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight.
The views expressed on this podcast are not intended and should not be construed to be the views of any particular TXOGA member or company. The purpose of this podcast is to engage in candid conversations about energy needs, energy security, and the future of energy.